Okay, good morning. Nice to see all these faces. Some of you may not like big classes, but I like big classes. You have all this energy here. Can you guys in the back hear me? Okay, a little louder. I'm going to have a sore throat at the end of the course, I guess. So my name is Prasoon Diwan, and this is Comp 401. And you see my name, my office number here. You don't see my direct email here. This course is, this is a big class, so we need more than me to instruct. So we'll have a bunch of TAs. The TAs have not been assigned. So once they get assigned, we'll all have one email address, common email address, and that's Help 401. Okay. The important data here is the course page there. Please note it down. That's your passport to everything that's assigned, the class material. And if you forget the course page, just if you can remember my last name and you Google for that, and 401, you should be able to get the page. Okay? I'll just give you guys a few seconds to note it down. Those of you in the front, can you see the bottommost line, or should I be changing my slides? And you can see it, right? Okay, good. So, before I started, there was a bunch of people who came and said, look, we are not in the course. And for those of you who are standing there, there's plenty of seats, feel free, please. And don't worry about disrupting right now. The good news or the bad news, the good news from those of you who are waiting is that a sizable fraction of the class drops. And so that's happened in the past. It's not guaranteed to happen again. So if you're waiting, you're most likely going to get in if you have the patience to stay till the end of the 2 weeks. Okay? So I've passed some sheets. Please put your name, your PID. I guess PID and name. I didn't put a slot for email there, but I think we can get hold of you if you have your PID. But those of you who haven't filled in as yet, please put your email also. Okay, those of you filled in, that's okay. Even if you're in the course. Okay, there's a rule in Carolina that if you don't attend classes for the first 2 weeks or the first week, I forget what the rule is, you get automatically dropped. Okay, so make sure your name is here. Okay, and the course page is linked from my homepage. So every faculty member has a homepage, has a faculty page. So from there you can get to the course page. And that is where I will post most of the material. So I won't be posting it in Sakai. Okay, this gives me the most flexibility. Okay, and the course page has lots of information. Okay, it has an overview which you can look at quickly. And also, you should definitely look at this particular link here, which is a course syllabus in UNC format, and it gives you far more details than I can cover in a lecture. Okay. Also, I have links to the previous offerings of this course that I have given, and also previous offerings of 110, which is the course before this, in case you want to get an idea of what your background should be. There's this information. And there's going to be a wealth of information. There's going to be no textbook. Okay, and I'll get to why there's no textbook. But basically, if the instructor really needs flexibility, you need to go beyond a textbook. Okay, and in lieu of that, you have PowerPoint slides. So I'm using PowerPoint, and if you notice here, this little icon here, it says recording. Okay, so everything I'm going to say is recorded. Okay, and you'll also have PDF versions of the slide. You also see chapters. These are Word documents. I tend to change a lot, so the Word documents don't stay up to date. What is recorded is what I actually told you guys. That's the latest information. So I tend to not highlight too much the Word documents, but students have told me that they find it very useful. Okay, it's not going to be exactly what we talked about in class, but it's reference material. Okay, it's typically dated. Okay, but it's not in an audio form, it's in written form. You can browse quickly through it, so that's good. You see this little icon here, and this says there's a recording on the slide. Can you see it? Okay. If you just, when you're going through the PowerPoint slide, just start playing it. Okay, just go in the play mode. It'll automatically go through the timings. It'll automatically give you the speech. And if we get into a long discussion about a particular slide, you will have to go through it, even if you don't want to listen to it. Okay? So the way to not go through it is to just escape out, go to the slide you want to really hear about, and go again in the slideshow mode, and you'll hear it. Okay? Now, if you want to hear a particular part of the discussion in a particular slide, then don't go into slideshow mode. Just go and click on this icon at the bottom right, and it'll open up a media player where you can fast forward and rewind through the recording. Okay? And what I'll also try to do, I believe the latest version of PowerPoint lets me do that, is create a media file from this, okay, which you can really go in, where you can really go forward and back. Okay? It takes forever. You know, one lecture takes about double the time to record. I've tried it once. But that will give you even more flexibility. Okay? So we have PowerPoint slides, Word documents, and we also have the assignments related to each unit. And some units, I don't know how I'm going to organize the page. I'm thinking about this, but right now I've mixed in the 110 and 401 material. In case you don't have the 110 material, you can always go and look at it. But maybe I'll separate it out, so that's something I'm still thinking about. Okay? And we'll be talking about code. Okay? Now, I won't be programming in front of you. Okay? It's too inefficient given the number of concepts you want to learn. Okay? You get to program at leisure at home. You get to program in recitations. Okay? But in lectures, I won't program. Okay? But I will show you code, and we'll go through the code. And all code is linked from the web page, so you don't have to go to PowerPoint and cut and paste, copy and paste into your project. Okay, it's all linked from there. So you see here that if this is my first lecture, right here is a little link that says for this particular lecture, all the code examples are here. Okay, and you know everybody has a different way of learning. Some like to hear, I like to hear. Some like to read. And some don't want any of this fluff and just want to look at the real stuff, the code, and figure out on your own, fill in the gaps yourself. Okay? And, some of you are taking notes there, and that's good, because when you take a note, it's went on paper, and maybe it'll go into your head also. But the intention is that everything is online. And if you want to just listen and participate in class discussions, I know this is large class, but I think I'm optimistic we'll have discussions. Okay? So if you want to just go and participate in the discussions and try to answer questions and try to ask questions, that's a very effective way of learning. Okay, but when you go to the code, you won't have very nicely explained slides. You won't have, or at least explained slides. I don't know nicely or not. So you'll have to go and really fill in the blanks yourself, and you learn a lot that way. Okay, so just as when you take your notes, you tend to go and try to say, what did I really write there? You have to fill in the blanks, and that's how you learn. So this code hopefully is useful. Okay. And you see here that, how the code might look at. You go in, you click on this link, it'll tell you all the particular files that are, there are things called packages in Java, which you may or may not have been seen before. And packages have classes or files in them. So you'll go and see all the files or the modules in that package, and you can click on one of them to see the code. Okay? And from the code, I wrote a program to do this. I don't know if you'll find it useful or not. From the code, you can go back to the PowerPoint in the Word document. Okay, so there's links built in there. So this is this whole web of information. Okay, and I'm very curious how you guys would use it. Okay, so here I clicked on the PDF file here, and I got the slides of that. And if you just want to have a code view, forget the sections. Just want to look at the code as such. There's a Java to HTML little link here where you can just look at all the code for all the lectures. Okay, you don't have to go through that table. And there's also a zip directory with the code, with an Eclipse project, which you can just put in your environment and you can run the code. You don't have to just browse the code, you can run it. Okay, a lot of resources. Okay. So this is your browser. You see all the packages here. There I went to the package for a particular section. Now I'm going to all the packages from one particular, and from a package I can go to all the classes. And if these words don't mean much to you, that's okay. We'll teach you the stuff in this class. Okay. Okay. Please, if my voice doesn't reach, keep telling me, reminding me. Okay, and I'll raise the volume. Okay. But there are plenty of, next time when you guys come here, there's plenty of seats in the front. So try to move forward. That brings us at least physically closer and maybe mentally also. And from each section, you'll see the assignments, okay, as I mentioned. And, I worked very hard to make sure that the first assignment is already on, okay. So, and it's due next week, so you can start on it right after class. Okay. It may seem odd to you that on the very first day of class you got an assignment. It does seem odd to you. Is oddly nice or oddly bad? Oddly scary? Anybody think it's oddly unscary? What's the opposite of scary? Fun. It's oddly good. It's a good thing. I mean, I have to work hard to do this, so I'm not quite a masochist. Even if I'm a sadist, I'm not a masochist for sure. Why do you think I did that? Sorry? Okay, those who don't want to be here, or those who should not be here, okay? And if this is odd, then the other professors are not doing this to you. That means I've got your cycles the first week, right? So let me use them. And my promise is that maybe the last week, the last week of classes where everybody's demanding your cycles, okay, this course is not going to demand as much, okay? So the idea is that there is a prerequisite to this course, so it's not as if I can assume that you know nothing. Okay, so based on what you are supposed to know, I can give you an assignment, and then you can figure out very quickly whether you belong to the course or not, and more importantly, you can get busy the very first day. Okay, which is when people don't make you busy. Okay, so that's my reason. Okay, I really had to work hard to make all this stuff happen. Okay. So that's the question. Should you be in this course or not? And of course, when you do the assignment, you'll figure this out. But before you even do the assignment, let's talk. So the course before this that also involves programming is a course we call 110. And you don't have to have taken 110 as such, but you should have taken some formal course in programming. And if you already had a formal course introducing programming, what might you learn here? Advanced? More programming? Okay. How to program well. Okay. And, I'm sure the people who taught you programming in your first course tried to say that we're going to teach you to program well. But but there's a lot of that's going to happen. Okay. You can learn the grammar, and then you can learn to write. Okay. And in the introductory courses, people are teaching you the grammar, the language, the syntax, and so this part of that is how to program well. And advanced or programming, what might that mean besides programming well? Somebody said advanced programming. Data structures. Okay, so that's a classic thing. You first do a course on introductory programming, and then you do data structures. But guess what? We have a course called 410, which is data structures. So this is not that course. Somebody else? Sorry, a little louder. Streamlining your code, which is kind of what program well, streamlining your code. And yeah.
Maybe a little bit of like numerical
Numerical
analysis.
analysis. I'm just the worst person to teach you that stuff. I did that as an undergraduate. I was happy to get out of electrical engineering. I did all right, but it's been a long time. Okay, so no, we won't do that. But why do you want to write well and streamline your code? I mean, if it works, right? Who cares what's inside? Yeah.
Writing codes that others can understand.
That others can understand it. Okay. But if I've written a program and the whole world uses it, I mean, why would others be looking at my code? I wrote it. It's my essay. Does somebody else modify my essay? Yeah.
Efficiency.
Efficiency, that maybe I didn't do such a good job. Yeah. Ability to debug. Okay, so when you write your code, you know, you wrote this wonderful program, the whole world's using it, then they want one more feature, and you say, uh-oh, I've forgotten what I wrote. And maybe you've left the company, and somebody else has to take over your code, and they should be able to look at the code. Okay? So yes, all of that stuff. Yeah.
So ability to reuse code?
Reuse code. So you tend to reuse code when the code is small or when the code is large? Yeah. When the code is organized. Okay, organized, well, reuse. And all of this has to do when your code is beyond a Hello World program. If it's Hello World, I mean, how much you're going to reuse, right? So that's the key, that we're going to write large programs. Okay? And what you do learn in 110 is maybe learn how to write well small programs. You know, you learn to write a sentence, or maybe a paragraph, or maybe even an essay. We're going to write a book here. Not quite, but that's the analogy. Okay? In fact, we will, over the course of the semester, be writing, you know, essentially chapters that build on each other and finally result in a project. Okay? So, there's a lot of other reasons given, you know, to just other factors given for distinguishing between 401 and 110. And some faculty members will even tell you this. Don't listen to them. Okay? They'll say, well, 401 is for majors and 110 is for non-majors. How many of you have done 110? Okay, there you go. So many of you are in 401. So certainly that's not the right argument. Right? A lot of 110 people become majors. A lot of non-majors take this course 401. Okay? In fact, some of the best students tend to be from biology and chemistry and all kinds of other fields. Okay, so that's not the reason. There's this object-oriented and non-object-oriented. Okay, and I don't know what the right term for non-object-oriented is, but I guess I'm showing my age, or maybe that term still remains. But when I started learning programming, the conventional programming was non-object-oriented, so and object-oriented was a non-conventional. So there's that argument too, that maybe this is object-oriented and what you learned before is not object-oriented. But many of you have done 110. You've done it in Java. Java is supposed to be object-oriented. Now, whether you used its object-oriented features or not, I don't know. Okay, but there was the potential of having learned it there. Okay, so but we will focus on objects in depth. Okay, Java has a lot of features that make it object-oriented, and you probably learned a few of those features. Okay, and is it Java versus non-Java? You guys like that argument? 110, you guys did it in Java, so you know Java. How many of you have never done Java before? Okay, small number of people. That's fine. Please don't get scared away. Okay, you know the vocabulary, you know how to speak, you know how to write. I mean, we'll figure out the syntax. Okay, we try to teach courses that are language independent. That's like saying, I'll teach you how to speak without making it English specific. Okay, well, that's partly true. The second language is easier. You've got the vocabulary, you've got the concepts. Okay, but of course you're an English speaker. Okay, so it's not completely language independent. We'll try as hard as we can to make it language independent. But the course is not about Java. It's about bigger concepts, and Java is just a vehicle. Okay. So I wouldn't call it advanced programming. Okay, I think at the end of the undergraduate degree, maybe you're an advanced programmer. At this stage, we'll just call it intermediate programming. Okay, and what does that mean? So your introductory could be object-oriented, it could be conventional. How many of you have done Math Comp 116? Okay, so that's not very object-oriented, or if at all. And I'm just going to assume that you guys know, basic conventional programming. And you learn Java syntax for it, and then we'll go. The first assignment essentially means don't program object-oriented, just program conventionally. And here's the syntax, and use your capabilities from the previous courses to basically write it in this syntax. Okay, and I'll give you enough examples that you don't have to look at in a book or some book to look at the syntax. Okay? And for those of you, but so I'm going to assume you know nothing about objects. If you know something about objects, there'll be repetition. And I've tried, I'm trying every year to try to reduce the repetition possible without losing the students who haven't done object-oriented. It's a fine line. It's a, it's a hard balance to maintain. But we'll see how it goes. Okay? But for those of you who know object-oriented programming, please don't go to sleep. I might go and tell you something you don't know. Okay? And I typically find people who know too much tend to do worse than the people. I think a lot of instructors find that. Those people who know things tend to do worse than the people who don't know things. Because the people who don't know things are scared, and you have to be a little scared to do well. Okay? So, if I'm not scared about my lecture here, I won't do a good job. Really. So this is what I expect you know. Okay, I expect you know something about types and variables and assignment and constants and expressions, conditionals and loops. Okay, and if any of these terms here seem totally foreign to you, you probably shouldn't be in this class. Okay, in some form or the other, you probably heard each of these terms. Okay, and it's not just heard; you should use them too. Okay, so the difficult parts are, to some degree, loops. The functions and strings, or I said arrays or strings. I've seen that in some courses people don't do arrays, they do strings instead, strings only. And in either way, you get the concept. This is basically a similar concept. Okay? Feel free to ask questions, please. Okay, so writing the book. We're going to have a project. Okay? Each week you'll have an assignment. Now that's important. You really have to allocate your time well. I mean, every week you'll have an assignment. And that's again work for everybody. It's work for me, work for the TAs, it's work for you. Okay? And I've tried earlier, assignment in 2 weeks. And it just, you guys are too young to allocate your time that well. So the grad students, I tend to give them assignments every 2 weeks. Okay, but the undergrads, especially this level, every week. Okay, and I'm going to call it each one an assignment, but each assignment will build on the previous ones. Okay, is that scary good or is that fun? Fun? I'll ask you the same question 6 weeks from now. Huh? Why might it be fun? Why might it be a good thing? So if I'm going to talk about writing a big thing, how are we going to do it unless we spend a whole semester on it? I can't tell you in 1 week write so many. So how many of you have written programs that are more than 5 classes? Wow. A single program with more than 5 classes. I'm not saying more than 5 classes in your, okay? A single program more than 10 classes? 20? Put your hand down. You've got too many of them. 30? No? Finally I got you. Okay, so we're all going to be better than him at the end of the course. How many do you think we might have? About 40. 40 over a semester. Okay, 4 classes a week, small classes. If they are run elegantly, well, okay, you're not going to have a long, big paragraph or long sentence like Hemingway's, you're going to have short sentences that you just combine together. Okay? So it's that's how we're going to do something big. If I'm really serious about doing a big program, okay, then I have to make you do a big program. And I can't tell you, okay, this is the first day of class, here's the big project, okay, see you at the end of 15 weeks. Okay? You won't know how to break it up. Okay, I don't know how to break it up. The project that I do for you, I have to think very, very hard. It takes me a summer sometimes to figure out how to break it up well enough that you guys can do it, or just how to break it well enough that I can do it. So it'll be all building on each other, and that's good. Okay, and why might it be scary? Scary good? So your foundation is not good, and then what do you do when you're up on the 4th floor? Better make your foundation good, huh? Or come back and repair your foundation. So that's the problem. That's why I said I'll talk to you after 6 weeks. Okay, and you'll say, you know, I don't know. So there's pros and cons. Okay, that's life. And these are the pros. This is the alternative I've decided to go by, at least for now. Again, it's work for everybody. Okay, but I do believe that when you survive this, and most of you will, you know, you'll feel very empowered. Okay. So, you know, you will have an assignment each week, but the week you have an exam, you won't have an assignment. Okay? The week there are holidays, we'll also take, you know, those weeks into consideration. And, you know, you can write an essay, you can write a book, and you can have some typos, and that's okay. We see them all the time, right? You can write even a mathematical theorem and say, yes, QED, I've proved it. And you get your points back, and they say, you know, we'll give you 70 points. Nice try. But you didn't know that when you submitted it. Okay? And the trouble with programming and the joy of programming is that when you get it right, it's saying, I work. And when you don't get it right, it says, I don't work. And you know it. And, you know, those of you who say, I'm going to go and sweat till it all works, deserve the credit, opposed to those who say, you know, I've got it more or less, and, you know, just a couple of lines, who knows what they are, let's forget about that. Okay, you know that from 101, whatever your course was before this. Okay, so you're going to have a big difference in grades also. You won't get much credit for program not working. And just to highlight this fact, you know, we call computing computer science. And whenever somebody calls their field science, you want to look at it very carefully, you know, with suspicion, and say, you know, you probably aren't a science. You know, physics don't call themselves science. Chemistry don't call themselves science. Biology don't call themselves science. You know, you can go through your head what, you know, fields do call themselves sciences. But why might we be a science? I mean, we are building things, right? We are writing, we are composing, we are writing, you know, we are writing these beautiful, elegant programs. That's all art. So where's the science here? What do you do in science when your physics experiment doesn't work? You know, what do? Try to see where the leaks are. You just try to debug, essentially. Okay, you just take this entity and say, why is it not working? You trace, you go, you know, and so you will write this. This will be your creation, but your own creation, you'll have to go and, as a scientist, analyze it, and that's a debugging. That's why you get more credit if you get it all working right. Okay, you found all the leaks, you know, and so and the nice thing is that you're working not with nature, okay, but you're working with your own code. So that's the good news. But on the 10th assignment, when you've forgotten your first to 9 assignment, you really have to be a scientist. You say, I don't know who wrote this code. It was me. It must have been. But I don't remember this code. And I have to debug. Okay? So, and so I always tell TAs, you know, go easy on the tests. I mean, if you don't do a great job of testing the first few assignments, that's okay. That code will get tested few assignments later, and they will fix it. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. Okay. Now, because we have this big book we're going to write, this big project, you know, that's what's going to test your comprehensive knowledge of the field, of the thing. So we will not have a final exam. Okay, so that's good. Okay, the finals week you will be studying for other subjects, not this subject. Okay, that's why you're working this first week here. Okay. And but we will have 2 midterms, okay. And I'm just so organized this time. I've never done this before, but I already have the midterm dates on the web, okay. I tend to ask people, okay, you know, when do you guys not have other exams? I tend to ask the class, but I found students want to take the exam, the first exam, before the October break, okay, rather than after October break. That's what I found from experience. People want to relax then. So this is going to be before October break. I think it's the Tuesday before October break. Okay? And the second one is after Thanksgiving. I think, or is it before? I forget. You just to have a look. But the way the dates turned out, that I can't give the midterm in the last week of classes. So the second last week of classes. Okay? So the exams are 44%. The assignments or the homework, the project is 46%. The recitation is 10%. Okay, so you'll be doing, this is classwork. You'll be doing work in class. And if you get your project working more or less, maybe you miss one or two assignments or one. But if you get a project working completely, it's hard for you to mess up the exam. So you'll get some form of B grade. Okay? The exam is to separate the A's from the B's if you all finish. Okay? And then, of course, the exams also separate, the ones lower down. Okay? Now I'm going to encourage class participation, and I'm going to encourage, so there's going to be a fudge factor where I just take all kinds of things into account, and I've done that in the past frequently to raise your grade if you're near the borderline. Okay, so every time I ask a question, that's an exam. That's a question. Right? If you answer, I try to remember that. I try to remember your names. Okay, and this is the largest class I've ever taught, but we've gone to 125 before, and once you reach that level, it's okay. To 200, it's not that many more, but I will try to remember names.
Do those numbers add up to 110?
So as you get older, you just can't add.
And I'm old too, so.
So the 10% is what you get above 100%. So if you want to stay quiet, ace all the exams, do all the projects, you'll get 100%. Okay? But if you do speak, like you are, okay, you already got your points, you will get more than that. Okay? So that's the fudge factor. A lot of students end up with more than 100% in this course. Okay? So, by the way, we don't grade by certain absolute numbers. Okay? It's a combination of curve and numbers, and you just have to trust me on that one. Yeah. If everybody's participating and you're the one person who doesn't participate, maybe they'll all get A's and you won't. But, like I said, the grading is a mixture of absolute and curve. Okay, so if everybody does badly, it's not as if I will give you no A grade. Okay, but if everybody does well, I'm not going to give the whole class A grades. I'm just going to, it'll be all right. You can go to my previous class and just see the grade distribution. And everybody who got a good grade felt they deserved it. So I think that really tells you that you will learn. Okay.
These exams are what's the format for that? How is that presented?
So, the best thing is to just go through my page and see the old exams. But there'll be in-class exams and closed book. Okay? And they'll test what I taught you. Okay? And they're varying. So, the best thing is to just go look at all exams.
On the previous midterm exam, it says that you cannot use any job capabilities not in class.
See, he's already gone and looked at the page. Wow, I'm impressed. Is the exam already? Is it there?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, good. Okay.
What exactly does that cover? You said that we should have some previous programming experience.
Yes.
How is there going to be a specific list of what we're allowed to use on the?
What? So for those of you who are from Comp 116, those who have not done Java, the good news is I ban the use of anything that I haven't taught you. Okay? Which means you just have to know what I taught you. Okay? Which means you guys have to unlearn things you learned from other classes. Okay? Not quite. And we'll get to that. I think I have some slide on that. Okay? So we'll get to that issue. There were a lot of hands up. Isn't it, exams are things that people hate, right? We get tested. But, when I start talking about them, suddenly I have questions. Okay? If you didn't have exams, you wouldn't learn. So, If you didn't have tennis tournaments, nobody would be a good tennis player, right? Okay, no final. I emphasize this one time. Okay, for each assignment, there'll be 2 submission dates. The regular submission date and the early submission date. Okay? And the regular one will be Friday. Okay? And the early one will be 2 days earlier. And if you submit by early, you get 5% extra credit. If everybody finishes 5% early, and you're the only one who doesn't, maybe you won't get a name. But you like this idea?
Yes.
So shoot for Wednesday. And if you can't finish on Wednesday, you can go to Friday. Okay? Programming is such that one line of code may take you a long time to figure out. And at 11:58, you might realize, oh, I'm about to get it, and you might get it by 11:59. But if you don't, it's okay. Okay? So students like this, and that's the goal.
How will you be submitting the assignments?
So the website will tell you all that stuff. A Sakai will be the mechanism to, okay? And every assignment will have the information on how to submit. And you just have to go to the link and put in your project directory, put in some screenshots to show that it works. That's basically it. Maybe I'll give you some things to write or answer also.
And if we're not on Sakai,
Sorry?
if we're not on Sakai,
Why would you not be on Sakai?
yeah, I don't have the class.
Oh, we'll figure those things out. There's email, there's all kinds of it. Just do the assignments, and by the time you get in, so don't worry about that. Yeah, that's a good question. Anything else? Okay. So now this is a large class. We have people written 30 class programs. Okay, and there's probably some of you who haven't written more than 5 classes. Normally my question when I say how many of you have done more than 5 classes in one program, nobody's hand goes up. So maybe this is going to be a really fun class this time. But that's okay. Please don't get intimidated by not having written more than so many classes. But the point is there's very number of people. Okay, and I really want to make sure that each of you finishes. Okay, and so but the assignments will not be trivial. So it's always a tough, tough balancing act. So I'll give you lots of extra credit. Okay, which is based on how much imagination I have, how much time my TAs have. And what I find is that students tend to do this extra credit. Okay, so not only, they all complain, so much work, but everybody does the extra credit nonetheless. Okay, and after every exam, people come and say, am I off in the time? So, it's 38 minutes. So it is 11:40 right now, right? Why does this say, so this is 40 minutes, and what is this? This is the number of minutes in this particular slide. Okay, sorry, I haven't done this version of PowerPoint in class before. Okay. Actually, once I reach the limit, I just hear all the bags being packed, and I know it's time to stop. So we'll have lots of extra credit. And, after people tend to not do as well as to their potential in exams. You have only so much time. So after every exam, people say, now what can I do to improve my grade? Extra credit, right? And so that's why people do extra credit. Okay? So there'll be extra credit. Sometimes there was 1 or 2 assignments where the extra credit was almost as many points as the regular assignment. But I really encourage you to do extra credit only if you're doing well in other courses. Okay? Please don't get too obsessed with this course. The regular credit will take you enough time, and do this only if you have the time. Okay? Compared to the amount of work you put, the number of points you will get in extra credit will be smaller. Okay? So it won't be that effective. And now you might have a choice. I can do all this extra credit and do it on Friday, or not do extra credit and submit it on Wednesday. I recommend do less work. Okay? Do it on Wednesday. But at 11:59, you couldn't find the bug, and at 12 o'clock, you found the bug, and you got 2 more days. Do the extra credit if you have time. Okay. Now let's go back to what if, okay. So let's talk about late assignment. Are we going to talk about late assignments here? Yeah. So, there's going to be late penalty. And, that's something I never enjoy taking out of people's, you did the work. And so why give late points? But I've been told, the first time I taught an undergrad course, I was told, if you just need to do this. If there's another course with a deadline and your course doesn't have a deadline, guess which course will get the cycles? So you just have to do this. And I think the handout that I mentioned has the right numbers, but I believe it's 10% for the first class, first day late. So if you don't finish on Friday, you give it on Tuesday, you'll lose 10%. If you give it on Thursday, you'll lose another 15%. Okay. And if you don't do it, if you're more than 1 week late, I'll tell you what we'll do. So I haven't done Tuesday, Thursdays for a long time. Let's make it this way, and I'll try to reflect this in the handout. Tuesday you finish it, it's 10%. Friday you finish it, it's 25%. Okay. We used to have Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so that was different. So for each class that you're late, okay, excluding Thursdays will be not counted. You lose the first class 10%, the next class 15%, and then you lose everything. And that's enough. You should be scared enough to do things by then. But what if you just get behind? You had some situation happen to you, and you're just 1 week behind on each assignment. How many points will you get in the assignments? You're 1 week. You're more than 1 week. You're basically getting 0. If you're more, okay? So that doesn't seem right. So if you do know that you can't, and if you get behind, you're not going to be able to catch up, most probably. Okay? So then the best thing is, I can do two things. I can say, okay, you couldn't do assignment 1, so I'll give you my assignment 1. And you build on that. You guys like that idea? Some of you do. Anybody not like the idea? Sorry? The other idea is you say, you haven't done assignment 10, you can't do assignment 11 now, so just forget about assignment 11. Okay? And assignment 2, so if and so you can shift your dates by 1 week if you sacrifice the last assignment. You can shift your date by 2 weeks if you sacrifice the last 2 assignments. And we can go to N. Okay? So get the foundations right first. Okay? Don't take my code. You're writing your book. My paragraph is not going to gel with your previous paragraphs or your future paragraphs. Okay, so get it right yourself. And I don't want my code floating around. I don't want your codes floating around on the web. Who knows what parts we might reuse in future projects. So, so that's what you can do. Okay, you can shift dates. So what if you get permanently behind? Can shift assignment dates n times if last 10 assignments will not be done. Okay, but you sacrifice the last 10 assignments whose course. But if you just say, okay, I used my October break, I used my Thanksgiving to catch up. Do submit the assignments to us. We'll grade them. You won't get the points that we promised you that you could have got if you had finished early, but you'll get some fraction of your points as fudge factor. That's why my 10% comes in. Okay, and people do that, and I'm very impressed by those people who finish well in the end. Okay, this is not to say that you go behind and then finish up later. Okay, don't please. It'll be very hard. But when the few people who do, that's impressive, and that goes into the fudge factor. Okay. Okay. Anybody have questions on this? So, let's say you skipped once, and there were only 4 assignments. Your due dates become this. Okay, you don't lose any point. Skipping twice, assuming there are 4 assignments, this is what's happened. Okay, and do submit the sacrifice assignment. Okay, now we get to don't show off too much your Java knowledge. Okay, I'm teaching you how to program. I'm not teaching you Java. to whatever extent I can, separate the two things. And, Java has a lot of libraries. It's not only a language, it's got this whole big environment around it. That means you can be very productive. That's why a lot of industry uses Java. Okay? But somebody has to write those libraries, right? And, when people say that this course is for the majors, it's for people who can be majors, who can write those libraries. And personally, I feel the only way I can use my computer properly is to know how it works. Okay, so I'm actually a double E, and I sort of went from physics to double E to digital, all the layers up. That's the only way I understand how to use this computer. Okay, so I want you guys to understand how some of these things work in Java, and so we'll be duplicating the functionality in Java. So if you just use the Java libraries, your assignment is one line. Okay, and that's why I'm going to have all these constraints.
Your last sentences
They're off.
is reducing your ability to respond.
Sorry, very good. I'm very glad to have students like you. Yes. So I just cropped the page. This is not a real assignment, just to show you that there's going to be constraints. But this is going to happen a lot to me. I barely finished writing your assignment and finished your project last night. I'm going to demonstrate the project today, and we'll see how it's going to go. Okay. So so deadlines are good for everybody, and sometimes you don't quite make them. Okay. So there's going to be constraints, and please follow the constraints, okay? And there'll be all the don'ts, okay? So again, don't get intimidated by the fact that you don't know that much Java, okay? You will have the first 2 weeks are going to be much more work for you. And for those of you who've done Java, you're going to spend about 20 minutes doing the assignment, okay? Maybe more. Okay, don't get disheartened if you spend more than 20 minutes. But for you 116 students, the first week, please work hard, and then you'll catch up. And again, correctness is only one of the goals. We are going to look at also. So the constraints will have to be not only with what you can't do, but what you should do. They have to do with programming techniques. Okay, writing principles, programming principles that we'll study, and so correctness is only one of the goals. Okay, it should be efficient and, most importantly, well-crafted. Getting help. Okay, a lot of you here. Okay, I better make the assignments as clear as possible so that you don't require that much help. Okay, but you will. Some of you will. And, you can come to us, and hopefully we'll have enough TAs and me. But there's nothing like learning from each other. Not only are you learning, the one who's asking the questions, but also the person answering the questions is learning. They often say, those who can't teach, right? And obviously, that's something I say a lot with a smile, but I don't believe that. I always tell people, I don't know the subject. I should teach it. And people laugh. I said, you teach what you know. I said, no, I want to teach what I want to know. Because by teaching, you really understand things. Getting an A grade is easy. You just have to be better than the other people. Teaching means you really have to know it. 200 smart students, you have to be able to answer their questions, right? And when you go and help somebody else, you're teaching them. You are really learning that stuff. Okay, and they've done all kinds of surveys showing that people who study in groups do so much better than those who don't. Okay? Does that mean that maybe you should all program together and one person is typing and the other one says, okay, here are 5 solutions. You have 5 copies of solutions. Well, that becomes plagiarism. So where's the fine line? There's a very fine line between these two things. Okay, so we've got to be careful. Okay? And I'm not saying this very theoretically. I used to just spend like 1 second or 1 minute on this, and till 2 semesters ago, a couple of students did do this, and they did get convicted in the honors code. And it's not a fun exercise, not for them certainly, and not for me either. So, it's 11:59. You haven't finished quite. Please don't borrow code, okay? But feel free to ask other people. So, what does it mean to discuss solutions at a high level and not share code? What could that really mean? Whiteboard, but can I write code in the whiteboard?
I mean, like a flowchart.
Flowchart, okay, that's one thing.
Basic pseudocode.
Pseudocode.
That's not pushing on.
Who knows what pseudocode is? Is Java pseudocode? Java is also code, pseudocode. So pseudocode gets tricky. Anybody else have one?
You basically explain algorithms to like flowcharts.
Flowchart, that's one thing. Any other language? How many of you used flowcharts? Few of them. You know, when I learned programming, they all said, create a flowchart before you write your program. I wrote the program, then created the flowchart. You know? And I've never known. I mean, they're wonderful. When I explain things, I show graphic flowcharts. They're great. But when I think and write code, maybe not. Anything else? I mean, whiteboard, but we don't know what to put in the whiteboard. Yeah.
Maybe like create a Java doc and explain the Java doc to them, so then you're not showing them.
So Java doc is what language?
Just going with pretty much.
Yes, natural language. Don't go and say, oh, you want to, this thing, use a variable called ij. No, talk in English. Okay? When you talk in English, you're far from Java, and that's all right. When I go and give you an assignment, I give it to you in English. I don't, write it in code. So that's the key. That, flowchart, it's maybe it'll work, but I don't think it will. It's never worked for me. But certainly you can talk in English. And if you don't use any whiteboard, if you just put your hands in your pockets and explain, that's even better. That will force you to abstract out what you're talking. It'll make you learn. It'll make them learn. And so be careful. The pseudocode is a very tricky issue, because what is pseudocode? I haven't even told you. And anything that looks like code is pseudocode, including real code. Okay? So you don't want to do that. But certainly you can talk to each other and you can draw diagrams, but just don't have code in any language. Okay? It should be such that whatever the discussion was should reflect in your assignments, because, then you know that they were from the same source. So if you're going to have 40 classes that are all going to have a one-to-one correspondence with another set of 40 classes, what are the chances that, you didn't program together, which is what happened in that case. Okay? Now, you might look at somebody else's code when you're helping them debug. And unless you have a photographic memory, you're not going to remember what you saw. Okay? So that's okay, but it's getting a little tricky. Okay? But if they really are stuck somewhere and you're teaching them how to debug and you say, put a print there, do this, do that, and you've already done the assignment, and you're looking at their code, that's okay. Okay? But just make sure that you really written your code yourself. That's the basic key. And if you have, it'll show in the code. And if you haven't, it'll also show in the code. Okay? Now, I've always said this, and then I realized if your fellow student can tell you in English how to solve the problem, maybe I can also do this in English and tell you how to solve the problem. And rather than each one of you who comes in, I tell them, maybe I can do that in the assignment itself. So I started experimenting with it last time. I would write it in very small print. I said, read this stuff only if you haven't been able to figure out, because otherwise, you're just going to not think. And I tried it a few times, and people had good success with finishing the assignment. And then I gave the exam, and I said, let's see how much they really learned. And I was amazed how much they learned, notwithstanding the fact that I gave them the solutions often. So I might do this more and more. That I just give you, and plus, please don't look at that. I'll put it in different font, and do it only when you're stuck, because unless you've tried to solve it and know what the pitfalls are, you won't really register. Okay? Now, when you're going to discuss with others, that means how well you do depends on what company you keep, right? If you happen to have the right set of friends, you're doing well. If you don't, you're doing not so well. And I went to an engineering college in India, which had very few women students, and they were all in a separate dorm, which means they were miles and miles away from everywhere else. And one of these students, who also went to the same college, realized how handicapped she was when she would go and have to study with other people. And so she stood in the US, and she's created this system called PIAZZA. Okay, how many of you use PIAZZA? Few of you. I tried that last year. It was a great success. It was meant to help you find your buddies, essentially. Discuss with the whole class. Okay, why are you narrowed down? I mean, in these days of social networking, why would you go to Facebook and, say something that's not as profound as what you could say in PIAZZA? Okay? And so in the course page is a link. Please go and enroll there. And it's just amazing how much activity I saw last time. It was very gratifying because somebody would ask a question and somebody else would answer the question. And when I look at my fudge factors, I'm not looking at just class participation here. I'm looking at your class participation in PIAZZA also. Okay, so use that. So I'm trying to say that please do learn from each other. Okay? And also, if you have questions that are general questions, I mean, maybe your fellow students will answer them, maybe we'll answer them. So don't send us mail unless it's about your grades. Why did I lose 10 points there? Okay? That's, of course, something private. But if it is, what were you really saying in class yesterday? And I didn't understand this part. And I've looked at the notes, I've looked at the PowerPoint slides, and I don't understand this part. Post it there. Maybe we'll answer, but most probably you'll yourself answer. Okay? Somebody else, some other student will answer. Okay. Now, there's a lot of material online. And, I tend to get great attendance the first 2 weeks. Then people find the website. And then they say, you know what? I can do my chemistry homework or I can attend class for which the recorded lectures exist. And that's okay. If you can study on your own the recorded lectures, that's fine. But, if you're getting behind in chemistry, you're probably getting behind in physics also, which means you probably don't ever listen to the recordings. So if you don't come to class, you're handicapped. Okay? I've never taken attendance, but, I'm taking attendance the first week for sure to make sure that, who should be dropped, who shouldn't be dropped. But I might take attendance during the other weeks also. But my recommendation is please do attend class. And attending class means not just physically attending class. It means paying attention and not Facebooking. Right? So, we computer scientists are very bad at making verbs out of, nouns. And if you have to miss class, okay, there's all this class material. And use PIAZZA for questions. And the help alias only for other things. If for some reason you become late, who knows what, please don't try to be late. But if the choice is between coming late and not coming, please come to class. Okay? But there's no excuse for leaving early. Okay, unless you've told me. And I really get bugged by that. Okay? So, because I just lose my concentration. And so don't leave class early and don't send mail to individual instructors. Okay, now if you do have an interview or an internship, come ahead of class, tell me that, then I won't get rattled. But otherwise, don't do that. Okay?